welcome back to the Explore YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to start with arrays. So these are the few topics which we are going to cover in this video, which is introduction, pros, cons. If you're not aware of what pros, cons is, it's basically advantages and disadvantages. And then we have a little overview between single and 2D arrays, or you can even state this as a multi-dimensional array. So without any further ado, let's get started. So introduction, right? Now, what is an array? Now, let's say your use case is given to you, or let's say a case is given to you wherein you have few values or numbers, it could be anything, which are of the same data type. So let's say you are given few values, 5, 7, 8, and then 35. Now, let's assume these are the marks scored out of 40, right? And you kind of want to store these marks in some data structure, right? So that you can use it efficiently, maybe in the future or right now. How will you store them and access them in a very much efficient manner? Well, one way is to use arrays. So you can probably store them in arrays as follows: 5, 7, 8, and 35, right? Now, we kind of represent arrays as follows in Java. Yes, in Java, we represent it as follows. Now, if I want to access an element, let's say 8, how will I be able to access it? Well, one way is that you start from the beginning and you go step by step until you reach the desired value, which is 8, right? But then what's the advantage of using an array? Well, what you can do is, instead of starting from the very beginning and going step by step and reaching the value 8, you can access the value 8 with the help of its index. Yes, that's what we call the term index. Now, when we talk about indexing probably begins with the value 0. Very important. Indexing begins with the value 0. Very important. So 5 is at the 0th index, 7 is at the first index, 8 is at the second index, and 35 is at the third index. Now, what I can see here is that the length of the array, let's represent the length of the array as n, right? So the length of the array here is 4. A very common misconception which people run into while learning arrays for the very first time is that they think that the very last index will be n. No, it won't be n. It will be always n minus 1. So you can see the last index is 3, which is n minus 1. n minus 1 is 4 minus 1, which is 3, right? Now, why is that the case? Again, because the indexing value begins from 0. Very, very important with respect to arrays. Now, let's say I come to you and tell you that, hey, give me the value which is at the first index. Then to get the value at the first index, you can probably say, let's say this array was named as ARRAY. That's probably array itself. To get the value 7, which is at the first index, you'll probably simply write array. This is how you will write it, of 1, right? Array of 1. That's how I pronounce it. You can state it as array 1 as well, but array of 1 is how I pronounce it. So array of 1 is going to probably give me the value, which is indeed 7, correct? So this is what arrays are used for. This is very helpful, right? Now, again, when I talk about pros, I think so this is one of the pros here, right? But what if I tell you that, okay, there is also con to this. There's always a bad side to brighter side, right? Now, the con here is that what if I say that, okay, I come to you and tell you that, okay, I have few more marks of few other students. So to this array marks, I want to add marks. Let's say I want to add 5, 8, 13, 18, right? These are the marks of the other students. How will I add these values, by the way? How will I add these values? Well, you can't just simply add them right here. You can't add them. You can see this is the end of the array. The array is only of length 4, right? The array is only of length 4, 5, 7, 8, and 35. You might be wondering what this is. So I've simply copied this. This is 0, first, second, third index. So you can see to add a value 5 here, 8, 13, and 18, I don't have any space. Yes, I don't have any space. So that's a very big disadvantage. Well, one other way you can add these values is by simply creating a new array, right? By simply creating a new array of size 4, which was the previous array size, and the next we have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. So total size will be 4 plus 4, 8. So this will be of size 8. And now I can simply add these elements one by one. So previously we had 5, 7, 8. 35, then followed by 5, 8, 13, and 18. So 5, 8, 13, and 18. But notice one thing, that this is time consumable and resource extensive, right? Because you have to again create another array and then so on, right? So that's kind of the con to this. Also, we generally say that arrays are used to store homogeneous elements. Homogeneous elements. What do I mean by homogeneous elements? Well, homogeneous elements simply means elements of the same data type. Yes. So if in an array you have elements like 5, 7, and 8, correct? You cannot have the very last element or any element inside of this as, let's say, 3.1. No, that's not an array. This is of data type integer. 7 is also of integer. 8 is also of integer, but 3.1 is of float data type, right? Or many of you might call this as a double data type. It's up to you, right? So you get the point. So in this case, what if I say that, hey, I want to have an array which is having all the values as decimal values, right? So probably I can have something like 5.1, 3.1, 6.3, and then so on, right? So this is what the definition says, that, hey, this is a homogeneous data type, right? Now, one best thing about array is that if you are at an element, let's say 5.1, then how will you be able to access the element at 3.1? Well, you could just simply go to the next index, right? If this is index 1, then you can go to the index plus 1. This will be at index plus 2. This is index plus 2, right? So you get the point. Now, what do we call this as? Well, you can say this maybe in an interview or for your own learning purpose, that the elements, yes, very important, the elements in the array are stored at contiguous memory locations. Yes, this is very, very important. Whenever you state about array, please, I'll probably request you to include this point. Yes, if you include this point, this is like a cherry on top of a cake, right? So I hope you get the point. Now, again, I've discussed about the cons, that you can't simply add more elements to the array. And one more thing, we have just recently saw that, okay, I cannot be having an element of a different data type inside of my array, right? So we have an integer. No, I cannot have a float. I hope you get the point. Now, what do I mean by single and 2D arrays? So let's have a quick recap on this, or let's have a quick look on this, and then we can probably get over with this video. So let's say I give you few values and I want you to represent that using some data structure. So let's say I give you values like this. Let's say I give you 5, 7, 8, and 9, right? So how will you be able to represent this? Hey, you will say that, okay, I can represent this with the help of an array. So you will say that, okay, I can probably write 5, 7, 8, and 9. And actually, this is absolutely fine. This is an array itself, right? So I think so I have a little extra R here. So I'll just correct that. Yeah. So right now, this is an array. And what we call this as, this is something we call as single, or we can even say this as 1D array. Correct? 1D array. Now, what if I tell you that, hey, I'm going to give you some values in the format of a matrix, right? And this matrix can be useful in various applications, right? So let's say I give you a value in the format of a matrix, and this is what the values looks like. So let's say the values in here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, how will you represent this? How will you represent this? Well, you might be thinking that, okay, I will declare 3 of these arrays, right? I'll declare 3 of these arrays and I'll be values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then so on, right? But again, this is not an efficient way because you probably don't know how many more rows I can add, right? So this is the row, right? This is the row. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, and then so on. This is column 1, column 2, and column 3. Now, the best way to do this is using 2D array. Yes, you heard me right, 2D array. So how will I represent some representation like this? Well, I can say my 2D array would look something like this. Notice how the brackets are still the same, right? Notice how the brackets are still the same. It was in this case as well. Now, what I'll do here is I'll quickly see that, okay, how many rows do I have? How many rows do I have? I have 3 rows. This is first row, second row, third row. So I'll simply create 3 of these guys. Okay, that's it. It's very simple so far. Now, how many columns do I have? I say I have 1, 2, 3. So I can probably say that, okay, in this first row, this is the second row, and this is the third row. This is this simple, right? First row, second row, and third row. Now, how will I say that, okay, how will these values get stored? Well, this is very simple. You will say, firstly, 1, 2, 3 will come up here, followed by 4, 5, and 6, followed by 7, 8, and 9. This is how you store them. Also, what can you call this? You can call this a 3 cross 3 matrix, or you can call this even a 3 cross 3 array. Correct? You can even call this 3 cross 3 array, because in this case you see that, okay, we have, if you represent this, if you look at this in a visual format, it will look something like this. So we can even say this is a 3 cross 3 matrix instead of something like a 2D array. I hope you get my point. So this is all for the video. I hope you understood the explanation. If you found the explanation helpful, please make sure to like the video and subscribe as well. Thank you.